right. Welcome back to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. And it's weird. It feels like it's been forever since we've done an episode. It's been 2 weeks. We took off on Memorial Day, obviously. But, man, it's amazing how the days are long and the years are short. So we have a really cool repeat guest for you guys today. And you've got to know off the bat that if it's somebody we're willing to have back on the show, that we absolutely do dig them. They've provided some good content. They've got good information for our audience when it comes to a lot of the things that we focus on here at JTT, like lead gen and client retention and team building and structure and systemization and automation. And those are a handful of the things that we'll talk about today with our guest. Welcome back to the show, Steve SchraderBacher.
Hey, how's it going? That's SchraderBacher, actually.
I know it's SchraderBacher, and I don't even know how that joke started because none of us can actually pronounce SchraderBacher, although I just did it correctly twice. So for the record, Katie Parsons, if you're watching or listening, SchraderBacher.
That's right.
It's not that hard.
No.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that we can lay the blame of shredded butter at her feet.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
All right. I'm pretty sure she's the one that came up with it. So, Steve, you're a loan originator in Iowa.
Yes.
Have been pretty much since the dawn of the mortgage.
Oh, pretty close. 2002. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably right about in the same
generation
era.
I guess, because that's over 20 years.
Wow. Actually, I had been doing this for a few years before starting my brokerage, and we just hit 20 years last month.
Oh, excellent.
So, yeah, probably right about in that same era. Yeah, close to it anyway. I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Yeah. I don't think I've ever done anything else other than live for 20 plus years.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, man, and the changes that we have seen.
Yeah.
Ups and downs, lots of roller coaster rides. But there was one of them that you and I were talking about that I think was really relevant for pretty much everybody in the mortgage and real estate space. And I'll explain why I think it's relevant for both. But we were talking about the fact that right now, not only is it really, really busy, that there are a lot of loans being moved around right now, but that the population of people who can do it, you and I do, is way, way down. Mm-hmm. Some rough calculations, like 10% of a recent peak. With real estate agents, we know, just based on the NAR stats, that 80% fail in the first 2 years, 85% in the first 5 years. I mean, how many real estate agents are out there that have actually seen a buyer's market?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So we talk about this kind of stuff. And obviously, 2024, 2023, these were more difficult times to be in mortgages and real estate than certainly we'd seen during the height of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Certainly than we had seen after the Great Recession. And there was a lot of, I don't want to use the word consistency, but as far as our business goes, it was relatively consistent in between. But in the mortgage space, which is a great example because you and I are both there, a lot of our clients are there, a lot of our audience is there. We went from a suspected close to 1 million licensed loan originators, federally licensed loan originators during the peak of the pandemic, down to less than 100,000 that actually renewed their license for 2025. So that's a problem. And the last time we saw big changes like that, I had always commented on, well, that's great. Smaller pie, but bigger pieces. And sure enough, that's exactly what we saw then. It's what we're seeing now, an increase in the number of borrowers, applications, loans, closings, etc. But one of the things that made a major shift in the last couple of years for both of our industries is the transactions have become more difficult. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to suffer this bottleneck where there are fewer and fewer people that can do the work, and we're going to have an increase in the number of transactions, the volume of work, and those transactions are going to be more difficult, that's like pull your hair out kind of stuff that you and I still have hair.
Barely.
Really impressive. Yeah. Well, we won't bring up Ben. Favorite British mortgage broker. And for those of you that don't know Ben, check Ben out. He is a beacon in our industry. And if you need a mortgage in New York, he's definitely your go-to guy. But Ben has no hair because he's been doing mortgages for so long, which isn't really true. But neither here nor there. I think that all of these things in culmination, all these things creating this bottleneck, this workload, and it feels like I haven't slept since early 2020. We need to work on some things that are going to be more automated, certainly when it comes to our lead generation, to our client retention, to our processes. We need to come up with more things that are systemized when it comes to all of those things, including the loan process. And all of these things, and there's one that we're missing. And you and I talked about it before we went live, but the human involvement. Some of these big companies, when things slowed down after the pandemic, let go of a lot of people, whether it was processing, underwriting, closing, so on and so forth. And now we're at a point where we probably need some of those people, maybe not all of them, but we need some of those people. And we do need more tech. We need more systemization and automation, those kinds of things. So I think it's important to cover the process first, because I've got news for you guys. Yes, you absolutely want to be working on your lead gen work to a point where your business is strictly repeat and referral. And with a little bit of luck, it's mostly, if not all, repeat client and client referral. You never want to be beholden to somebody else doing their lead gen work, having an impact on your business. Same kind of thing with client retention, right? We want people to use us again. We want people to refer us. Okay. But if your mortgage process, if the consumer's perspective of your process, of how you actually got them a loan, is a shit show, then you're killing the whole thing. There's no reason to work towards building a strict repeat and referral business if people aren't going to use you again or refer people to you. There's no point. So we've got to have a really good process. And you brought up a really good point before we went live when it comes to milestone activity.
Yeah.
And not only making sure, and I think we talked about this last time we were on the show, we talked about milestone activity when it comes to clients, agents, other people involved in the transaction, where we need to be making sure that they're kept in the loop. Hey, we received their application. Hey, their loan's been approved. Hey, they're clear to close. Their appraisal's in. Whatever it is, the wire is out, et cetera, et cetera. But we need to be doing that on an internal basis as well, which I thought was something really smart that you had said, that internally we need to be making sure that we're aware of milestones that do impact our clients, that impact the process, the real estate acquisition process, but maybe not things we always pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take it for granted a lot. Obviously, if you got people, but you got people on the bus with you, is the term I like to use. You're
I like that.
You just got to get the right people on the bus with you. And so I think the question is, making sure they understand what their role is, and also where the loans are at in the process, and what the next activity is that needs to be completed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really just staying in front with the client communication, because again, we've got systems in place, and I encourage everybody to have systems in place, automated systems where touch points as you pass various milestones in the process. There's automated touch points that go out to the clients so they know where they're at and what's next and who will be in touch. And I think that we've got it pretty well dialed in to let them know that, hey, so your loan's at this process, your next person you'll visit that'll be in touch with you is so-and-so. And if anything else is needed, they'll be in touch right away. So,
but I do think that those of us that are still doing this long, are still in it, are still doing moderately well, have that when it comes to the client.
Yes.
But there's another side of that coin.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly internally. I mean, you want to have the right people. Excuse me, I'm just fixing myself here. You want to have the right people. You want to have the right information dialogue going on the folks that are internal, so that there's no question about what their role is and what they need to accomplish. And basically, I mean, we still call it a pipeline call, having a regular pipeline call with the folks that are on the team to make sure that they're aware of, what the priorities are. And, they've got 50 loans going every which way, but up sometimes.
Right.
So, really just trying to make sure that the priorities are there. And again, you as the loan officer, as the CEO of your business, are responsible for driving the bus. And so it's up to you to make sure that your people know what's expected and what the priorities are for your business.
Okay, I think that that's really valuable. I was really kind of secretly hoping you weren't going to say that the loan originator was the bus driver, but unfortunately we are, and we do need to focus on that and
Well,
all
I
of
mean, I
the
guess you wouldn't have to say
traffic.
that
And
if you didn't want to. I mean, that's how I.
yeah, no, unfortunately, you're really not going to get out of that task. But I do think that there is some value to the regularity and synonymity of everybody being on the same page. And just because I don't want to corner you into it, I'll reveal our ops and then let you share. But we do that every Tuesday. We all get together, we have lunch. We DoorDash lunch. We sit around the conference room table. We go through a list of what's probably give or take 100 files that have yet to get into processing. We're still waiting on documents. They're still looking for a house, whatever the case may be. And then, I don't know, another number that is more than I want to deal with as far as loans that are in processing. Right now, the key to what we're doing as a team is every file every day. We try to touch and think about and work on every file every day. How can we help this homeowner or this home buyer get closer to the goal today? And some days there isn't anything we can do. We're done. We're waiting on an appraisal. We're done. We're waiting on a clear to close, whatever the case may be. But as long as we gave that file some thought today, every file every day, kind of one of our mottos, then we're accomplishing a big task. When it comes to files that are in processing, mind you, for those of you that don't know the inner workings of the mortgage space, processors are like sorcerers or magicians or wizards or maybe even witches. And there's some kind of black magic that goes on, and they've managed to get things done. And mad shout out to all the mortgage processors out there. You guys have a very difficult job. It's thankless and crucial. So that's certainly a big part of the process. But yeah, we meet and go through that once a week. It takes us roughly 2 hours, depending on how chatty we get and how much content there is, and which files need a little more attention, a little more thought process, a little more brainstorming, those kinds of things. But what goes on your bus, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar now. Just a little bit of historical perspective here. My previous company was acquired. I'm currently work for Rate, formerly known as Guaranteed Rate.
Mm-hmm.
Large retail lender, offices in all 50 states, I'm individually licensed in 18 of those 50, and then have folks that handle the rest outside of there. But anyway, so came to Rate in 2021, and we revamped so we have a pipeline call, just like you had mentioned, or pipeline get together, but ours is on Thursdays.
Okay.
And our system is set up. We have specialized our processing system. We have a specific processor that handles all of the upfront work from application submission to underwriting. And then I have a back-end processor who is separate from underwriting approval to clear to close. And so they stay in their lane, for lack of a better term. And it seems
that's a good term. That's the one we like to use for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. So it works out very well. And then obviously I'm as the bus driver, I'm the overseer of both lanes of traffic. And so really just is staying there, and obviously the two lanes they go along on a parallel path, but occasionally they intersect just to make sure answer questions from one side to the other. But it's worked really well. It was kind of a big switch for me because I had not been used to that prior to coming here through the acquisition. But it's worked out very well. Once I started drinking the Kool-Aid, for lack of better term, and understanding the process, it does work very well. And I think, and the biggest thing again, as the CEO of my business, my responsibility is to introduce the team. So I introduce the process, and then I introduce the team to the customer. So, and it's in a very detailed email that explains, here's how the process goes. Here's who to expect to hear from during this part, and here's who to expect to hear from after the loan is approved. And then, it's worked phenomenally, and I think our customer success scores reflect that too. So.
Cool. And we do it very similarly, although really it comes as introductions from my team.
Oh, okay.
So, hi, I'm Mindy. This is my role at Adam's company. Here's what I'll be helping you with. Hi, I'm Erica. this is my role, so on and so forth. But and then we reiterate who does what as we go through that milestone process. And our milestones for consumers are actually videos of me. Hey, we ordered your appraisal. Here's what happens next, and it's done in a video. For 1,000 reasons. Obviously, the ability to build a deeper psychological bond. We obviously want to work on client retention as we're working on somebody's transaction, those kinds of things. But you mentioned 2 lanes, and you clearly do have 2 lanes in the processes for loans you've already originated. And I see maybe it isn't even 2 lanes. Maybe it's 2 highways. Because in the long term, and obviously you know full well because you've seen us present and heard me speak. I'm sorry for all of you that have had to suffer that. But we really have 2 highways that we focus on here at JTT. One that you're describing is basically ops. And obviously, there's got to be one that's sales as well.
Sure.
Sales and marketing and so on and so forth. So I think eventually for the people that are in your role, in my role, you really kind of have to drive 2 buses. And there may not be as many people on the first bus, the lead gen bus, the client retention bus, which, oh my gosh, could be everything from the phone calls and CRM work and social media work and events and blogging and podcasting and on and on. So it may be a short bus, which I think is how a lot of people would describe me anyway. Or it may be the ops bus, which is really what you're describing. Both have a lot of room for automation systemization. And right now it seems that there's probably going to be, I don't want to say room, but need for human operation as well. So I think we're going to get into a window here. And you and I both know, and all of you that are in mortgages and in real estate know that when things become more fluid, let's say rates going way down, maybe that'll happen, that a lot of people jump on their bus. They go buy a bus, right? And they make some money while they're driving their bus. Then when things get more difficult, they're gone, like what we experienced at the turn of the year here, where, wow, holy shit, 900,000 people didn't renew their federal license. What the hell is going on? It wasn't quite that many, but we'll use some nice fat round numbers there. And I think that there's still a need for a lot of human interaction. And obviously, you know, Keith Geringer, and Keith's a former coaching client and an incredible loan originator and has all kinds of incredible ideas and desires in the tech space. And he and I started working on systemizing and automating with a lot of AI, some of the things that we do manually as humans. And I do think that as time goes on, we'll be able to shift more and more of that off our plate. But I'm never going to be able to get AI to look at different refinance scenarios where this one we're paying off all your credit card debt, and this one we're paying off all your credit cards and your car, and this one we're paying it off, plus we're consolidating a second mortgage, and we're getting you some cash for home improvements, so on and so forth, where we really have to help a consumer, a client, a borrower, a buyer identify some long-term goals, for example. That's just not something that can be done in an automatic or systemized way. It's really got to be a very hands-on, let's put our heads together, 2 heads are better than one kind of operation to really make sure that we're doing what's best by our clients' dollars, not just at time of transaction, but in a year and 3 and 5. How long are you going to own this house? How long are you going to keep this loan? These kinds of things. And I think that the human population still fails to dive into a lot of that, dive deep enough into a lot of that, but it's just not something that can be done in a systemized, automated way.
Right. And I think, you know, it brings up a very good point. I think the question right along that line, talking to the client to say, hey, here's all these different scenarios that AI may have put together for us or not. What's most important to you, you know? So I can give you all these different, the math is math. I mean, so the math is just, that's just the math.
That's universal. Agreed.
Right. But what's going to be most important to you? Because I just had this conversation this morning, ironically, just so ironic, because the client was looking now, your people in California are going to laugh because I'm looking at a home purchase of $150,000 for a
Wow.
home. And so he was going back and forth and lamenting about, well, if I did 150, what if I did 130? And so there's this home that he can purchase for 130,000, and you're like, well, God, 130,000, is it livable? And so, yeah, it's livable, but here in Iowa, in the flyover state, we have some pretty affordable places, generally speaking. But anyway, so we were just going through some different scenarios, and then it's like, well, at 130, maybe your payment would be such that you'd want a 20-year loan or a 15-year. Now, this is a kid that's just out of college, got a couple of years behind him. He's probably 24, 25, and this isn't necessarily going to be his forever home. Sometimes some clients, when they're right, depending on their situation, they're first-time home buyers and ends up being their forever home, but that's normally not the case. And so, we talked about, well, at 130, maybe you could, if you really like the home and it works for your purposes as a first-time home, maybe you'd go to a 20-year loan or a 15-year loan. Again, most are 30, but you go to a 20-year or a 15-year loan, and the payment wouldn't be as unmanageable for you necessarily.
Small loan balance, lower rates.
Yeah, but it would allow you to build equity that much more quickly. And so if you decide that you're down the road 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road, whenever the case might be, and you want to move out and get a different home, well, you'd have that much equity built up in that home. And so those are the things that AI is not going to be able to do. I mean, they're going to give you all they can do the math, or AI can do the math for you, but still it's just having that conversation about what's most important. What are your goals, short term and long term? What are your, I can give you the information, but you need to make the decision for your best short-term and long-term financial goals. So everybody's goals are different, and AI is not necessarily going to know how to express that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
there are just a lot of things that still require human intervention, conversation, debate, even that kind of thing. On a total side note, you'll laugh at this because I don't think you were there, but years ago, we were doing an event with Steve Green in New Orleans, and we were talking about one of the lead gen tactics when it comes to the landscaper. And for those of you that don't know it, you can go back and search on episodes, or we'd be happy to teach it to you at some point down the road. And Steve says something about how this is really a technique for only the super nice houses, 250,000 and up. And from across the stage, I start laughing, and of course, he wants to know what's so funny. I'm like, yeah, $250,000 doesn't even get you a patch of grass in Denver, so not a problem. Yeah, no big deal there. Yeah, $250,000, you got a condo, and maybe you can step outside from your unit onto sort of deck or patio or balcony, maybe. Yeah, so you and Steve should talk more.
Yeah.
Iowa and Alabama might have a few things in common there. But yeah, there's still going to be an amount of human involvement no matter what you do. And we do work a lot on AI stuff in our program. And one of the things that we absolutely love to talk to other real estate agents, loan originators about is that AI, any kind of automation and systemization, AI isn't going to take your job. But the people using it will. So you've got to have some of that in your arsenal. You've got to have some of this experience in your belt. Obviously, when it comes to AI, God, at a minimum, for those of you that are not really jumping in head first with it, at least start teaching your AI. I use Gemini. A lot of people use ChatGPT. I'm a grown-up. I'm a Samsung user. That kind of thing. I'm big on Google. In fact, for those of you that don't know, recent changes that the Google activity in Android phones is now gone and replaced with Gemini. So I would no longer say, hey, Google, do such and such. I would actually ask Gemini to do it, which is really cool. But for the love of God, at least go teach it enough about you and your business to use it to create your ideal client avatar. It's a great first step in using your AI to teach it enough about you to get that result. So that will help you obviously target your lead gen, your client retention, where you need to be on social media, when you need to be on social media, what kind of content you need to be using, on and on and on. Okay. That's obviously a very big one, but And we had this with Scott Shang's been on the show a few times. And I do actually get to run into Scott because he's now a neighbor of mine. After moving from California to Texas, he decided Texas to Colorado was the next step. And he's actually walking distance from my house, which is really cool. But he said something that really struck a chord with me when it comes to all this automation and systemization and AI in general, is that he sees a lot of people creating problems for AI to solve rather than using it to solve problems they already have.
Yeah. I had heard about that too. And that kind of struck me as, well, yeah, I mean, you're making more work than you need to.
Yeah. Right. So we've come up with a few things that we run our clients through when it comes to this stuff, and on how we got off on this AI tangent, but it is obviously good content. One is record your conversations with potential new clients, repeat clients, and then use AI to do some analysis. Have AI analyze the other party's half of the conversation and figure out personality profiles, how they're going to want to be communicated with, what kind of language they're going to want to be spoken to. And I don't mean like English versus Japanese versus Russian, but help identify their personality type, their love language, whatever the case may be. The other piece of that is to have AI analyze your half of the conversation, which is really the sales half of the conversation, and let AI tell you where you suck, where you should be improving, what you should be focusing on, these kinds of things. Because we're all going to have this. We're all going to have these conversations with new clients, with repeat clients, with referral partners, so on and so forth. So there's a problem you do have that AI could solve or help you improve upon at a minimum, rather than creating problems for AI to solve. I still think that listing descriptions, AI is a great tool for that. And you've probably heard Steve Green talk about the client or the partner, the referral partner, the colleague he had who had a house that just couldn't get sold. They had AI rewrite the listing description because it was like the one house in this neighborhood that had a fuck ton of land. And otherwise it looked like every other house, but it was on like a double lot or a triple lot or whatever. So let's focus on that. Let's put that into the listing description because she hadn't. And yeah, once they changed it, when the house went under contract like 2 days later, right? So a lot of that kind of automation is certainly going to be relevant, is going to be valuable when we're on the sales highway. I don't think there's any secret that we need as much of it as we can get on the operations highway, where you really feel you're driving the bus. And you are. But after all this time, you've done all the things that you need to be doing with your lead gen, with your client retention, that your business really is strictly repeat and referral. It mostly is repeat clients and client referrals, handful of stuff coming from referral partners, so on and so forth. So yeah, you need to focus on making sure that those people are getting a bomb experience every single time, because that's what's going to continue to perpetuate that. Okay. Getting everybody to the table on time, open communication, that we're really looking out for clients, for referral partners, for all those that are riding the bus with you. Okay. So yeah, I think that this is big stuff. I think that this is where we really need to be focusing what goes on in mortgages and real estate right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, obviously you got to have the old acronym for systems: saving you stress, time, energy, and money. So I mean, you got to have the systems in place, and whether that be AI or be other systems. I mean, I think the opportunity for, even just since the last time we were on this very podcast, I mean, I think that just the advances, the ways that AI has come more to the forefront.
Much more.
Definitely have to use that to your advantage, because I have people that business partners that say, how do you have so much time in your day? Do you have an extra hour in your day? It's like, no, I don't have an extra hour in my day. I just did it, right? So
I like that. No, there are no extra hours.
No.
Yeah, that's not what's going on. And then of course on the flip side, I see people spending that extra hour creating a cartoon AI action figure of themselves.
You won't find me.
I'm all for playing with the AI and the graphic creation and that kind of thing, but yeah, no. Let's use our time and our resources in a more productive manner. We'll just go with that. All right. Well, leave us with a nugget, Steve, because we're going to run over time as we usually do when you and I are talking. But
Well, I think,
it,
I can. Well, this is nothing that we just talked about, but I'll give it as a nugget, and maybe it'll be a follow up for a future podcast. But as far as client retention goes after closing, I would encourage folks, if they haven't heard of it, to check out Client Giant. Client Giant is a for-profit company that basically helps with client retention, and I highly, 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 highly recommend them. So just clientgiant.com, and you can find all about it. So, and I get no, although if they're watching, maybe they'll send me something, but I get no remuneration or any other incentives for mentioning their name, other than to say that they do a phenomenal job. And
well, you got to tell us a little bit of what they do.
So basically, I mean, they have different programs, but essentially after closing, there's this old saying that says, if you want a client for life, you need to be in touch with them during their lifetime. So really, Client Giant helps me to do that, because they send out quarterly items of value to clients that are items that are fun, that are different, that are not boring. And I get a lot of feedback, a lot of comments from clients that I've worked with in the past, and it keeps me top of mind. And the beauty of it is I have it set up so that the information that goes out with the gift is a call to action to call me to let them know they got the gift, and I even include my phone number. So I make it foolproof for them to reach out to me, to call me or text me, just because I want to know how it went for them, and I truly do. So Client Giant.
Client Giant. So how regular is the touch?
Every quarter.
And there's a call to action.
Yep. I mean, you can set. I mean, there isn't a call. Let me back up. There isn't. I set up a call to action again. Systematize it. But there is a card included, which they have a default message. I add a call to action at the end of the default message.
Okay.
So
this is cool stuff. That's certainly the idea. Stay top of mind. God, we've used that term for longer than you and I have been doing this, if that's possible. And the old adage that if you're not in touch with your past clients, they are someone else's prospects.
Yeah, somebody is
very, very true. And for all of you that, how do I put this nicely? I'm not going to. For all of you that bitch about the fact that your past client used somebody else, or you lost a deal to the Rocket or to G-Rate or whatever whatever you guys calling yourselves now, guaranteed rate, G-Rate, rate. Just rate.
People couldn't spell guaranteed, I guess. So.
Okay, I'd struggle with that one myself. I before E, except after G, whatever. You have got to be doing this activity. The numbers, especially on the real estate side, are staggering.
And to that point, Client Giant also has a real estate agent specific platform as well as mortgage loan originator platform. So
perfect.
There are things for listings. There are things for buyers. There are things for. I mean, it's just a complete package. So
okay,
yeah,
because the number was like more than 80% couldn't even remember who their realtor was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Something to that effect. I can't remember what those stats were exactly, but I know that number is beyond staggering. It's offensive.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to end on that note. Steve, again, bottom of my heart, thank you. I know carving out this kind of time on a Monday morning, Central Time Zone, I had to think about that for a second, is not an easy thing, and we'll certainly get you back for another episode. I'll put that into the tickler when we wrap up here. And for the rest of you that are listening or watching live or in syndication, you can catch new episodes of How I Met Your Mortgage on Mondays at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, with a few exceptions. Like I said, we didn't do last week on Memorial Day. I know we'll take off the Monday after the 4th of July. I think I'm going to take off my birthday, which happens to be on a Monday this year, that kind of thing. But otherwise, you can catch the episodes live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at that time. A mere 48 hours later on Wednesdays, they go up as the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. And for all the other things, just the tips, like our video blog, The Weekly Little Tip, or our annual conference in September every year, the Mile High Mastermind, those kinds of things. And that's going to be an interesting one this year for all of you, because we are consolidating the social media day that we would really be doing. Oh, it would be this month, social media day as a holiday. I believe it's June 30th every year, but it just got to be so complex to get speakers and attend more than one. I just can't be in 2 places, 3 places at one time. So we will be doing day 1 strictly on social media and day 2 strictly for agents and originators at the Mile High Mastermind this year, the last weekend in September, as always. But for all the JTT stuff, just go check out justthetipscoaching.com. And I don't know what else to say. I'm sure Jen will critique me after the fact. But Steve, thanks for doing it again.
Great,
and for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in live or in syndication. And Steve, don't go anywhere. I'm going to run our extra. For the rest of you, we will see you next time.